everybody. My name is Julie Champagne, and I'm the head teacher and co-founder of Park Street Education. We are a progressive school for children in grades 4 through to grade 10. We are fresh off of our inaugural year at Park Street, a very exciting first year for us to be sure. And I am joined today by three of our families that have completed a year with Park Street Education. So I'm going to let them each introduce themselves. We'll start with Heather.
Hi, my name is Heather. My son just finished grade 7 at Park Street and will be returning for grade 8.
Great, Nicola.
Hi, I'm Nicola. My son just finished grade 6 and will be going into grade 7 with Park Street.
Fantastic. And Joanna.
Hi, I'm Joanna. So we have two boys, Sebastian, who was grade 8, and Jasper, who was grade 5, who will be going into grade 6 at Park Street.
Fantastic. Great. Well, thank you all so much for joining me and giving your time on this lovely summer evening. We'll get right to it. I'd really love to start off by asking each of you, why did you choose Park Street? Why us for your child's education?
All right, I'll go first. So my kid was one of the first ones with Park Street. When the pandemic started, even before the pandemic, my kid was not very engaged with school. The kind of feedback we would get is, we know he's really bright, but he just doesn't want to put any effort. He's not motivated. He's very shy and doesn't participate. So it was just hard for them to then write up report cards based on performance because he wasn't performing. And so we really struggled with that. We had one year that was pretty good, but overall it was just really a struggle. And we thought about, do we want to put him in the alternative system? And then the pandemic hit and we tried virtual school for 2 weeks and it was a complete disaster. So we let it go. We investigated options in the summer. And when I learned about Park Street, I had a conversation with Julie and with Sam, and they really came across as, we are interested in the well-being of your child overall. We are going to keep class sizes small. We're going to provide a consistent experience. They answered every single question I had, which is not the case with another school I had looked at. So I just felt like I was really prepared during a time when things have been very unpredictable. So that was really the motivation. And then in terms of how it met my expectations, like he did so much better. He took much more ownership of his work. He was able to participate more. He felt more comfortable. The learning was personalized. So it really was a good success story. And so he's continuing with Park Street, not just because we want that to happen, but because he wants that to happen.
That's wonderful. We're very excited to have him coming back with us for sure. Thanks so much, Nicola. Joanna, would you like to share a little bit about why Park Street for your two boys?
Sure, and it's a very similar story actually to Nicola, and I would say particularly for Jasper, he tends to get quite distracted, I think, in the classroom, and so we were looking for something, some alternative even prior to COVID, but I think it really cemented that the traditional schools were not keeping up at all with the online version. And so, what attracted absolutely was the introduction, and I got right away, I got a great sense that this was going to be the place for our two boys. I think the small class sizes, the interesting way in which you approached the virtual learning and really maximized, I think, as much as you can, the interesting topics, books, and every component of the learning experience. And I would say both of them came away with much improved marks from the prior year, and certainly Jasper, who absolutely wants to come back next year and continue his learning with Park Street.
Great, thanks so much, Joanna. Heather.
So I guess also we come with a similar saga. Park Street is our 4th or 5th school, depending on how you want to count it, and probably the only school that truly got my son. For across the board with the teachers, usually that, you know, sometimes we'd have a good teacher here or there, but he was this anomaly. He's gifted with other exceptionalities. So he has, you know, learning struggles, and he has this high potential, and people just didn't understand how to teach that. He was in the gifted program, and he started off in virtual school, and the teacher was just mean to him, didn't want to answer his questions. And so we decided, like, I'm not going to stick through this. You could be as organized as you want, but if the teacher is no good, your kid is never going to learn. So we started looking for something else, and we ended up in a Facebook group that was talking about learning pods. And Juliana was in there, and there was a comment she made on someone else's post that made me pursue it. And as soon as I met Julie, I was like, oh my gosh, she knows what to do with him. And it was just true to form. The rest of the teachers followed suit. And he was so proud of himself because he's never done well in school. Like, he's done okay, but he's never done exceptionally well. And he's like, have you seen my report card? Did you see my grades? He was like so excited because he was able to just bloom.
That's lovely. And I mean, as somebody who's worked closely with all of your children, it has been such a pleasure and a privilege to watch them turn into these confident young people, right? And to be earning those marks, to have that great report card and know I worked hard for that. I showed up every day, and I did the work to get there, because all of your children are really very bright. And so it was just a matter of pulling that out, wasn't it? Showing them that they could perform well in school. I'd love to hear a little bit about, you know, what your kids say about Park Street. You know, what do they say to you guys about their experience, for, you know, looking back on this past year, looking ahead to next year?
I have to be honest, there's not a lot of talk, but that's a good thing for us. My son tends to look at all the doom and gloom. So there's usually like, everything is like, it was okay, it's not so bad, but there's nothing, it's total silence. And there's no anxiety about returning to school. So for us, that is the most positive thing. That's him saying, I'm excited without saying it.
I love that.
I would agree with that, actually. I was to say I haven't heard much, but they're very quick to tell us when they don't like something. And I think silence speaks volumes, particularly when I hear experience of some of their friends who were in the traditional system for the past 18 months. And, you know, class sizes of 50, don't have to have their cameras on, don't have to answer a question if they don't want to. I suspect a lot of kids were checked out for the past year, and that actually scares me, but it also reaffirms that we made the right decision.
So my experience is pretty much the same. My kid, again, doesn't talk a lot about school, and I don't think he's ever going to be a kid who says he loves school, but you know, he wanted to come back. He liked some things that he did like, that he said during the school year, was that he liked that each of the subjects had a dedicated teacher who was like passionate about that subject, that there was personalization. Yeah, if you don't want to be on camera, that's okay, as long as you're participating, that there was choice and personalization in the assignments, and the kids could insert their personalities and their ideas. Like, some of that really resonated with him.
Awesome. Thanks so much. You know, this sort of leads really nicely into the discussion of values and sort of what, in your opinion, would be Park Street's core values. What do the teachers think is important? What do the administrators think is important?
One of the things I really appreciated was thinking not just about the academics of the kids, but their overall well-being. So one of the really important examples that comes up for me is when March break was postponed. And it had been a very long winter with us all, you know, not being able to do much of anything. And the Park Street team got together, they thought about it, you know, do we align March break with the rest of the province? And what they came up with was this creative idea of, we will have this more relaxed week that still has learning, and we will still have the March break aligned with everyone else. And I thought that was this really great way to take a little bit of that help give people a break from that really long winter, and at the same time, you know, provide an opportunity for them to be aligned with their friends who may not be in the same school, so that they can enjoy the March break together.
Of course.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, you know, it does speak volumes when the teachers take an interest. You know, there was a couple of weeks where Jasper was a little flat, and it was just the regular check-ins. You know, is everything okay with him? Is there things we can do differently? And it was really appreciated. I know pre Park Street, my husband and I traveled quite a lot, and so we just never had any visibility into how the kids were doing day to day. And so I really appreciated having those regular check-ins, and it wasn't even necessarily on how they were doing academically. And the other part I would say is I feel as though the social justice part of the curriculum last year was phenomenal, and I think it was very timely given what was going on last year, and I know it definitely resonated with my kids, particularly Sebastian, who has a very social justice mindset. It just comes naturally to him, and I think that really helped to get him engaged this year.
One of the things that I think was a big topic of conversation here for the school year was homeroom, and how everyone got a chance to really voice what they wanted to, and had their turn to participate and to pick activities, and how you could take kids from across all of the grades and put them together for a period in the morning. And they got to know each other, but they also learned how to respect each other and to respect each other's differences. So you know, my son is a very big math and science geek, and, you know, sometimes would say the most obscure things. And I know Miss Lisa said to me, like, you know, the kids didn't realize he was saying a joke, and they really didn't know what to do with it. And they agreed that next time they would just give him a good laugh. And so the next time he had this like really long-winded, weird joke, they all just were like, ha, 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 even though none of them understood what he was talking about. And just to be able to set that kind of environment, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, that kind of respect is just so important in a classroom, I think, and the sort of empathy for each other's experiences and where they're coming from. They can all be different, and they can all be diverse in how they learn and how they interact. But at the end of the day, I mean, we could really take a page out of our children's books and in how to move forward as teams. I think the Park Street kids really did that beautifully this past year. Mm-hmm. Great, thanks for sharing. I was recently asked this question, so I'm going to throw it out to you guys now as well. What 3 words would you choose to describe Park Street? What comes to mind? Who will I put in the hot seat first, I guess? Does anybody have an answer prepared?
Yeah, I did.
Excellent. Okay,
I'm the keener. I admit it, I'm the keener. If we were to, you know, use personality traits, so I chose empathetic, adaptable, and collaborative. So empathetic, I think we've really touched on this a lot, really thinking about different perspectives, making sure everyone's included, thinking about, you know, the whole child and the well-being of all the students, not just their academic performance. Adaptable, so again, like going back to, you know, giving students choice in their assignments, you know, adjusting March break, having some understanding and flexibility around assignments. Oh, you know, you missed a few things. Would you like to try that again? And then collaboration. So, you know, providing feedback, having the teachers talk with us and with each other. So, you know, I had provided feedback to some of the teachers about things I liked that some of the other teachers had done, and some of that then got incorporated to really help the experience. So like the whole team, I think, really worked together to make a good experience for the students as a team. And that's something I really appreciated.
Great, thanks so much, Nicola. I really like those 3 words, similar to the 3 words I chose actually. So that's kind of cool. Joanna, did you want to share 3 words?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Nicola probably stole a couple from me, but you know, I would have said absolutely flexibility. I observed that quite a lot with particularly the assignments, and I would say caring. Maybe that's an empathetic caring. You could swap them out for each other, but yeah, I think there was a deep caring from all of the teachers. And encouraging, because I think they at times they knew the right times to really push the kids in a very positive way to step up, and I did observe that over the full year where the kids did just that. So
great, thank you, Heather. Not to put you on the last spot there, but 3 different words, 3 same words. What are you thinking?
Oh, some are definitely the words that have been used are definitely like they speak true to me. I think I'd add also honesty. We've been through a lot of schools, and there's been very few that have honestly done exactly what they said they were going to do. And you guys are that exception. You know, sometimes there's been some ups and downs where people would do it for a little bit of the year and then kind of regress. And I just found the whole year was just very consistent of, I'm promising you this and I'm going to deliver. And as a parent, you can't ask for anything more than that. And I would say caring in a different way. Also for the families, you know, like, I had people reach up to me and be like, are you okay? Like, are you overwhelmed? Is everything, you know, going well? Is it going smoothly? Like, this is a rough time. And, you know, to care not only about the kids, but ourselves, and make sure that we're okay is amazing. And then I think the adaptableness, but in terms of curriculum, right? So my son was in a math class with a couple of other children, and all of the kids were at different levels, and the teacher made it work. So she taught, you know, one lesson and gave the material for homework at a high level, a middle level, and a low level to match each one of the levels that were seen in the class. It's something that's supposed to be done in a classroom, but very few teachers take the time to actually do that.
Great, thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to ask the question about what you might change before my head gets too big, perhaps. So, you know, if you had the opportunity to change one thing about Park Street, what would that one thing be?
Do you want me to go?
Sure, Joanna, that would be great.
I hope for this year that there's the odd in-person, whether that's just meeting for a fun event, kick a ball around the oval, go on a field trip somewhere. I think you guys did phenomenally well, given the COVID lockdown, but it would be great if we can get a few of those in.
Absolutely. Heather, Nicola?
I can go. I think just expanding to full high school. We would love to continue with you for high school, and it's a little daunting thinking right now it's 2 grades, and is the start worth it? I mean, we still have another year before high school, so we're still good, but it's coming closer and we have to start thinking about that. And also, I know the concept is to have both in person and online, and to hopefully see that come to fruition.
Great.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add there. But yeah, bringing up high school, you know, my son's going into grade 7, so high school's not that far away. So it's something that's been on our mind. I expect he'll want to continue for high school as well. So very interested in seeing that. And certainly I had thought about mentioning in person. I don't want to, you know, too early get my hopes up, but it is something that I look forward to as well.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Joanna, maybe I can ask this one to you specifically, as you have one son who is moving on. He's an alumni. He's our first alumni, which is really exciting, our first group. So, you know, what did you most appreciate with Sebastian during his time at Park Street, and sort of what do you hope to take forward into his next school from the Park Street experience? What do you hope to see?
I appreciated that he was way more focused on his schoolwork in the past year than he was in the year prior. I think it gave him an opportunity to really focus on schoolwork and not be distracted by his peers who are a lot less into school, and the girls, which I'm sure he will love when he goes to high school. What do I hope that he takes? I think just some of the what's the word? Some of the sort of good habits, study habits, doing his assignments on time, finding interest in things that he might have necessarily written off before as not in his wheelhouse. So I just hope he takes those good habits onto high school. But I will say I'm still very much interested to see how this develops. And there's, you know, extra courses that he can take and the like. And if high school doesn't work out for him, then we're probably going to put him back into Park Street. I will say.
Great.
Yeah.
That's awesome to hear. So I really appreciate hearing sort of what you hope to see going forward, and I think that leads really nicely into the question of, you know, how has the Park Street experience and Park Street School, how have we been different from other schools? What sets us apart?
So my kid has some special needs, and the school he was at before was really amazing. They provided it, you know, teachers to help out. They provided a lot of you know, assistive equipment and so on. But it wasn't addressing the piece where he wasn't motivated and he was shy, and, you know, still is shy. And so even though he had all these supports in place, they weren't working. And one of the things Julie's talked about, and that you talked about in another session, that really resonated with me was listening to the students and seeing what it is that they need, rather than imposing what you think they need from sort of some standards standpoint. And I think that approach has been highly successful. It's really changed my view of accessibility and how to approach special needs. And that for me was something that was a big difference for us. So beyond just, you know, the smaller classes and the personalization and all that stuff, which I had to some degree expected, the accessibility piece for me was a really big game changer.
Great. Thanks so much, Nicola. Hi, Vince. Welcome. Thanks for
Hi,
joining
sorry,
us.
I was on a business call. I had clients in Australia, and I couldn't blow them off. So yeah, sorry
No
for joining
problem at
late.
all. No, that's no problem. We're happy to have you. We've been chatting quite a bit about all the kids' experiences, and I've learned that Jasper and Sebastian have been away.
Yeah,
over
we haven't seen him in 7 weeks, so
Wow.
we can't give you any feedback from them directly because
Yeah.
they're out for us to ask them. But yeah, we miss them. But yeah, it's I'm glad they went to camp because it kind of makes up for the lack of human contact and all that kind of stuff from COVID.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're making up for a bit of lost time, and hopefully they come back with all that socializing and feeling better.
Rejuvenated.
Yeah.
It's 8 weeks, isn't it, this week?
Yeah, well, it's going to be 8 weeks in total. Yeah, so maybe
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So we were just chatting about how Park Street and the experience that your children get at Park Street, how it's different from other schools. So Nicola, you had the opportunity to share there. Thanks very much. Is there anybody else that would like to share about how they find the Park Street experience different for their children? What sets us apart from other schools?
I can go. I think similar. So because my son is gifted and has learning disabilities, he never fit in the regular stream because he was eons ahead of everyone else. And then we moved him into the gifted program, and then there was no one else who had any learning issues. So he's like, there's still no one like me. And he actually didn't feel that at all. He just felt like he was being taught to as himself, and the rest didn't matter. So he didn't feel like his curriculum was necessarily different to anyone else's. And I think that's the first time he's ever experienced that, which was amazing for us, because if you think about the real world, we don't walk around with labels, and we all choose our jobs. And school is the one time where everything is kind of set out for you. You have to learn this, and you have to learn it in this way. And that's just not reality. And I feel like Park Street was teaching more how he's going to live his life than in a traditional school ever would.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing. Vince and Joanna, would you like to add on to that at all about what you feel is different about Park Street?
Go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, okay, sure. I mean, like our initial reason for joining, which is not, it's not, what our experience, I'll get into that, but the initial reason for us joining was, we really didn't want to have to deal with the chaos of, schools on, schools off. We knew what was coming, that, there's a lot of chaos with the in-school learning, and we just wanted to have a set schedule for our kids that's consistent. And we were very happy with, I think, the energy level from the teachers, and the just the personal attention, the smaller class sizes. I feel like our kids did not fall behind at all, as they would have. They might have gotten lost with the rapidly thrown together online public school, whatever, chaos. And also, since we're a working family, it was important to us to have that consistency, because at least we knew what was happening, right? We knew, okay, here's the plan, this is the schedule. And I really liked a lot of the themes were really good. I think that you picked some very good themes about life lessons, and being inclusive, and dealing with all the I thought there was very mature themes that made the kids think about just morals of life beyond just the learning. So I mean, that's just me talking off the top of my head, because I didn't have much time to prepare, because I just jumped off a business meeting. But I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Joe.
No, and actually it's funny, you covered some similar things that I said earlier. And I just think, compared to schools, and they've gone through a number of schools, the two of them, just because we've moved school boundaries a couple of times, and no offense to the teachers that they've had in the past, but I just think somehow it resonated. This learning styles resonated with them both, And so we've just seen a marked improvement in both of them. You know, marks and otherwise, I think maturity level as well.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, everybody. I'd love to ask you what you think new families to Park Street would find most surprising about our school and about the experience that their children and you guys are about to have. So new families coming to Park Street.
I think the pleasant surprise for me is I know the school started during the pandemic. And so I wasn't sure what to expect. Like I said, I felt you were really prepared. You answered all my questions. So I was really, really hopeful. But there was also this piece of there isn't a track record. There isn't a history of what the school has done before. And so it was a bit of a gamble. And I was really, you know, pleasantly surprised at how prepared everyone was, the quality of the teachers, how much they cared and provided feedback, the iteration on how they taught. Yeah, it was just that was a pleasant surprise for me.
I agree. It was a bit of a gamble. And, you know, I think we just went with our gut reaction, having met you, Julie, and others. Didn't really know what it was going to end up being. And I think it was better than we expected. The quality of the teaching, the creativity, I think, in lesson preparation and delivery was phenomenal. It was a huge surprise and a pleasant one.
I also found it was easier to track what the kids were doing just because it's a digital platform. You have the presentation sort of stored where, you know, where before the kids would come home and there'd be some papers crumpled in their backpack and you have no idea like what was taught that day and how do we review it. But I found that if we need to go over something, you could actually go online, find the lesson, look up the, you know, when there's you know, if the kids were struggling with something or wanted some advice from us, we could actually look at what was presented in class and it's like, oh, I know why they're asking this question, you know, and sort of help them through it. So that I think was helpful, just having you know, that digital platform that's easier to follow and keep tabs on things.
For us, there were two things. It was really hands-off learning. My son was in grade 7 and he would sit down at the computer at the start of the day. He knew what Zoom call he had to be on at what time and would take his recess and, you know, sometimes corral me for recess as well. And he just knew exactly what to expect and everything was on schedule. The other thing was the curriculum itself. So we had been exposed previously to blended learning and it was a real winner for us. And that was a big appeal that Park Street was doing blended learning. It made the way you guys blended made it really interesting. So history in the past has been like a snooze fest for my kid. And it was agony. And he didn't feel like he was doing history or geography. He's like, we didn't do those. I'm like, yeah, you did. But it was just kind of like snuck in there and it was interesting and inviting. So instead of having to sit through dry curriculum, it was more up to date. It was modern and it got him really thinking.
Great, that's great. I will just link back to Nicola and Joanna, what you guys were saying about, you know, you took a risk on us and Sam and I, we talk about that all the time, about how grateful we are for our founding families. We wouldn't be even sitting here having this discussion if it weren't for you guys saying yes, taking a chance on us and on this school that we had built. And we're just so excited and grateful and can't believe the privilege we have to continue with it, to continue to see it grow and develop. And, you know, so like, thank you for that, right? You took that risk, you put, as a parent myself, I know what kind of risk that is, right? And you guys took it. And so we're eternally grateful for that. So thank you very much. I'd love to end on one final question here for the round table, and that is what advice you would give to new families. So if you had one thing to offer, one bit of advice for a new family entering into Park Street, what would you say to them? How would you help them feel at ease?
I guess what I would say is that the Park Street team is again very flexible and adaptable and open to feedback. So to not only when you start conversations with as parents with Park Street about your child and your child's needs, but encouraging your child to advocate for themselves, advocate for what they need, because you're not going to be sitting with them the whole time that they're in class. And it's going to make their experience so much better if they know that it is a safe space for them to either within a class speak up, or even just privately email or message a teacher and say, this is where I need help. I didn't understand this. Oh, I missed this in my homework. Can I try it again? Like, there is openness and acceptance and understanding for all of those things.
Thanks, Nicola. Anybody else would like to share some advice to new and incoming families? Of which we have quite a few in September.
Mm-hmm. I got nothing coming to the top of my head here. It's flying quiet.
I think you made it so easy for us.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay if nobody's got anything. I think that's probably.
I like the advocating one though. I think that's a good one. You know, we've got a our kids can be quiet at times, and I do recall a couple of times during homework where I'd get a blank book, and it's like, well, did you say something about not understanding? So I think even in the small class sizes, sometimes they can feel a little awkward to admit when they don't know something, and just encouraging them to continue to advocate and ask questions.
That's great. Thank you.
And I guess playing off of that is that everyone was so available. My son would email people on the weekends and in the evenings to ask for help on homework. I didn't understand this. And I was like, well, you might not get an answer back on time. And everyone kind of saw it different. And suddenly at 10 a.m. on a Sunday, there was a response. I was like, what? And it was amazing. It made him feel it was always okay to ask, whether it was in class or if it was after hours. It didn't matter. He was always going to be heard. I think my biggest advice for people who are new is, if you knew things could be different and you were nervous, just to be reassured that this school does do things differently. And I guess just like our kids shouldn't be afraid to ask, we shouldn't be afraid to ask, because I never really got a no. It wasn't always an I'll try, we'll see.
That's great. Well, thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy days today and sharing all your thoughts and opinions about Park Street.